This man just committed mass murder and mercilessly ran over 50 innocent people in a single horrifying rampage. The race was on to catch the mass killer who committed this horrifying act, but he managed to flee on foot into a neighborhood. Little did he know, his every movement was being recorded, and what would follow is the largest manhunt this town has ever seen.
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them! Put your hands!
Darrell Brooks had been on the wrong side of the law since he was just 17 years old. He was clearly a troubled and disturbed individual, racking up charges of domestic abuse, reckless endangerment, and was even registered as a sex offender. But all of this seemed to culminate in 2021. On the grand return of the Waukesha Christmas Parade following the pandemic, Darrell Brooks decided to ruin the lives of countless people as he took his anger out on the Christmas parade in a blind moment of rage. From the hour of 4 p.m., neighbors reported a violent argument coming from Darrell's house. He and his girlfriend weren't on the best of terms and would occasionally explode into fiery rows such as this one. Often it'd be about their troubled relationship, and this one ended in physical violence toward his girlfriend and one of the most violent and senseless acts Wisconsin has ever seen. 30 minutes after the argument, Darrell exited his house and sped across the familiar roads towards the center of Waukesha, and at 4:39 he reached the main street before plowing through the barricades to the Christmas parade at 40 miles per hour. 5 seconds in, he claimed his first 4 victims, several members of the Dancing Grannies performance group. As he continued, he pressed on the accelerator, swerving to hit as many people as possible, killing an 8-year-old a few seconds later. This is when police and bystanders began to react, trying to clear the roads, warn others of the attack, and attempt to stop Darrell from driving. Thankfully, this worked to some extent, and only one more person was killed 10 seconds later. After a total of 30 seconds of the murder spree, Darrell sped out of the parade route, leaving 62 people injured behind him. Once he was out of the other side of the parade, Darrell fled roughly half a mile from the parade before abandoning his SUV near a house on Elizabeth Street about 6 minutes later. From there, he fled on foot. He even tried knocking on someone's door and claiming he was homeless, asking them to call an Uber for him. He was given a jacket and a sandwich before fleeing when he noticed police searching the area. Not long after, he was captured by a security camera, which helped the cops approximate his route and track him down. It's hard to see, but if you look closely at the top of this road, you can spot Darrell trying to inconspicuously navigate his way around Waukesha to escape the police. But given the scale of this event, the cops were dedicating all their resources to finding him. Cops set up a perimeter around where his SUV was found abandoned. Nobody was allowed in or out, meaning that if Darrell was here, they'd find him soon. Eventually, a resident spotted him hiding out in the woods, and the cops were able to narrow their search efforts considerably. After 6 hours into the manhunt, the cops located him at a house in a residential area and moved in to apprehend him. This is the body cam footage of that intense arrest.
277. What's up? Hands up! Hands back! Whoa! Hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Do it now!
Hey, take them one of the hospitals.
Put it on your stomach!
Robert, 277, are you on?
You got something with your name on it, man?
No.
Okay, lads. Cooperate with us. Okay.
I just used somebody's phone to call for a minute, that's all.
Oh, okay.
That's what I need you.
If everything turns out to be on the up and up, life will be good, and you'll be on your way, all right?
Go ahead and take a seat for me,
With Darrell in custody, the officers were able to begin questioning him, but quickly they were forced to stop due to the fact the FBI wanted to take over this case. I've asked a former detective to analyze this interview, and he was able to give a deep dive into every influential moment. Prior to the investigation, the detectives involved already knew just about everything. They knew he was driving, that he didn't own the car, and that he had found the car key inside his pocket. What makes this interrogation so interesting, though, is that Daryl doesn't even know what he's being brought in for. Police never told him he was suspected of the parade killings. From the cops' perspective, this almost 5-hour-long interrogation wasn't really to figure out if he did it, more so to see how Brooks would react. They wanted to see how much he'd lie, and if he'd felt any remorse for what he'd done.
Okay, face that way, face that way.
It's the shoulders.
There you go. All right, all yours.
Oh, you can drop your hands now, man. Thanks, appreciate it.
Holy shit.
How long you been out of work?
See, when did I get locked up? Just a few months.
Anything to do with the pandemic that's been hitting
Yeah,
you hard?
that's the reason why, yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
It made me smooth off. I got stuff lined up though, so.
Yeah, like what?
I'm probably gonna go back. I was working at a sheet metal place, so I'm probably gonna go back there.
And do you stay at your, is it your mom? You talked about your mom. Is it her address you stay at now?
She owns the house.
She owns the house.
She doesn't stay there anymore, but she owns the house.
Okay.
She has her own house she stays
I
at.
think we put your mom as emergency.
The detectives have already found the first indication that Brooks is willing to lie. If you haven't noticed, the extreme shoulder pain Brooks complained about earlier has miraculously vanished just a few minutes into the interview. He was able to move his arm effortlessly as if the pain never existed, something that would later be used as evidence in court. And his tendency to lie will become even more obvious as the detectives continue to divert his attention.
When you left Stephanie's,
It was still daytime.
it was still daytime?
Yes.
Okay. Were there still a lot of people out?
It was still people out.
Okay.
It was still people out. Not a lot in that area, but it was a lot of people out. And it was, like I said, it was people. It was older couples walking down the street. It was younger people walking down the street. People
Was like an event or something was going on?
I don't know, but it kind of seemed like it was a lot. Like it was something going on to where it was vibrant.
How long was it between leaving Stephanie's and those cops yelling at you at the door of that guy's house?
Was it dark when they yelled at you?
Yeah, by the time they came, it was dark.
Okay.
But we had been sitting out there. For a minute, me and the guy.
To find how long, estimate?
20, 30 minutes maybe. We were sitting right there, just like this, just sitting on the porch. While I called me an Uber. I called the Uber. I said, look, man, I let him know. I said, look, I ain't trying to rob you or nothing like that. Because when I knocked on the door, he kind of was like, whoa. I'm like, look, I don't got no weapons. I'm not trying to break in your house. I'm not trying to rob you.
Daryl has clearly thought a lot about this alibi since he's managing to deliver a lot of very specific details. However, the officers already have mountains of evidence against Daryl and don't believe a word he's saying. As the interrogation continues, Daryl continues to lie until the cops have had enough.
Let me ask you this, Darrell. So you weren't out in Waukesha Saturday, just Sunday.
Yes, sir.
You're a part in the investigation. There's a lot of parts, right? Any investigation, there's
Investigation.
people we talk. Well, this domestic abuse thing I'm telling you about, right?
Okay.
You talked about being a religious man.
I can do better.
God.
I can definitely do better.
We all could.
I'm not.
We all could.
No,
That's why.
Yesterday was a mistake. I should have just freaking watched the game and just fucking went home.
And that's the thing. What do they teach us in Christianity, Darrell? That they teach us that we're broken, right? We're sinners. You're a father. You got 3 children. 18, 14, and 7.
Yes, sir.
All right. You got a mama that raised you well, and a God you believe in.
Absolutely.
All right. And all of them are. Here's the thing they'll all want is to tell that you're telling the absolute whole truth and nothing but the truth, right?
Absolutely.
I just have concerns if I fact check that Darrell's not telling me the truth. You don't have a car, so Marcus had to bring you out. You don't own a car, your mom doesn't own a car, right? So why did we find you with a car key in your pocket?
It wasn't in my pocket. I don't even know where they said that was laying on the ground.
The car key in Daryl's pocket is a key part of this case, as it shows that Daryl does in fact drive, despite his statement to the officers. Knowing that he's quickly being backed into a corner, Daryl tries even harder to convince the officers of his innocence. But these officers had done their research, and were about to take a different angle that would hopefully guilt him into confession.
It's yours. It's your car key. I'm trying to be as open and honest with you as I can be. And I'm not calling you a terrible man. I'm not saying you were out yesterday hunting, and just let me finish. But you did not walk to that house. You did not walk to that house. You did not come here in a tan Kia. You got a key in your pocket to a car, your mom's name. For the love of God, Marcus. For yourself, for your family, you know what happened yesterday. For the people. Tell me what happened.
Well, what?
With the car.
What am I being
With
arrested
your mom's
for?
car. You're driving goofy, people call you in, you drove out of there in your mom's car, the red car, you're driving a little silly, probably because you're pissed. You met up with Erica in the car at the park. She got in, you talked, and what you're telling me seems pretty consistent, that there was nothing physical.
I didn't put my hands on her, nothing.
But you met her in the car.
Tim, what's going on, man?
Asking you a question.
You
were out there
just tell
driving
me
kind of
what's going
crazy.
on,
Some
man.
people said you were driving kind of crazy.
Daryl is heavily on the back foot now and has very little room to wiggle out of this one. Eventually, the pressure from the detectives would cause him to cave and admit that he was driving at the time, now choosing to change tactics and try to garner sympathy from the detectives, deflecting blame onto his girlfriend and an apparent alcohol problem.
Erica, she's a sweetheart until she gets that alcohol.
The alcohol's the problem.
Then you all type of jazz and I have somebody touch you and I'm gonna keep my daughter away from you, and even my mom doesn't even like her around when she's drinking.
I've never been with anyone that is as bad as what you're saying right there, but I think he can attest to it. We've all
Man probably look like he didn't do it with some chicks, man.
You know.
So, Darrell, what were you thinking when you went driving through this parade?
What am I facing? I don't have no problem talking with you
You
guys.
got people injured that had to go to the hospital.
So they're saying I injured somebody, or you're saying I
You
injured
did.
somebody. So I'm looking at what, reckless endangerment?
At the very least, yeah.
The very least.
People got hurt. That's reckless endangerment. I don't know exactly what they're going to classify it. Yeah, people had legs broken.
Endangerment's where you may have hurt somebody by your actions. You did hurt somebody by your actions. You wanted information from us. We're
I
sharing
want
it.
you to watch it and see what's in it. Yeah, it's a good point. It's information sharing.
Why do you want me to see that car? Why?
Because I think it's important.
Why is it important? Is it to make, like, what is it?
Well, why don't you want to look?
Everybody knows what was going on.
There's their children right there. See those are kids? See that little kid right there? You gonna look at it?
Too hurt, man.
You're too hurt?
Yeah.
Emotionally?
Don't do that hurt, please don't.
Don't do that?
Don't do this, please.
The most shocking part about this interview is this moment, when Daryl discovered what had actually happened to the victims. Daryl didn't once ask about the victims or if anyone had lost their lives, very likely because he had no remorse to give and was concerned only for himself. At this point, the detectives have successfully achieved the main objectives of the interview, to get Daryl to admit he was driving the car and to see if he had any remorse. The interrogation was exceptionally long to corroborate the strong evidence they already had and to acquire footage that would persuade a jury that Daryl had no remorse, which is why they let him lie and portray himself as a selfish, evil man as much as possible.